A woman named Carol Sutton worked the phones at a call center in Ohio for 19 years. She knew the job so well, she could calm down an angry customer in under a minute, just by the tone of her voice. Then one Tuesday morning in March, her supervisor called her into a small office with beige walls and told her the company was switching to an AI system that could handle 400 calls at once, never got tired, never needed a lunch break, and cost a fraction of her salary. She asked if there was anything she could have done differently. There wasn't. The system wasn't replacing her because she was bad at her job. It was replacing her because it didn't need sleep. Stories like Carol's are happening quietly, all over the world, in offices and warehouses and call centers you'll never hear about on the news. And they're about to happen a lot faster. By 2030, entire categories of work that have existed for decades are expected to shrink dramatically or disappear completely. Not because employers suddenly stopped caring about their workers, because the math changed. A machine that works for pennies an hour, doesn't get sick, doesn't ask for raises, and improves every single month, eventually becomes impossible to compete with. So today, we're going through 15 jobs sitting closest to that edge, and by the end, you might recognize your own job somewhere on this list. We'll start with something you've probably already noticed without realizing it. Customer service. Not the whole industry, but the entry-level version of it. The calls about billing questions, password resets, order tracking. Companies like Klarna have already reported that their AI assistant handles the workload of hundreds of full-time agents, resolving most conversations without a human ever stepping in. The agents who remain aren't answering simple questions anymore. They're handling the messy, emotional, complicated cases the AI still can't manage, which means the industry isn't disappearing. It's shrinking down to a fraction of what it used to be. Telemarketing sits right next to it, and honestly, it might go even faster. Cold calling was never a job people loved doing. It was repetitive, scripted, and exhausting, which happens to be exactly the kind of work AI voice systems are best at. Some of these systems now sound close enough to human that people don't realize they're on the phone with software until the conversation ends. Then there's data entry, a job that sounds boring on paper, but has quietly employed millions of people for decades, typing information from paper documents into digital systems. AI can now read a scanned document, extract the numbers, and file them correctly in seconds, a task that used to take a person an entire afternoon. Bookkeeping is next, and this one surprises people, because it feels like a job that requires judgment. It does, sometimes. But most of the daily work, categorizing transactions, reconciling accounts, flagging errors, is pattern recognition. Software like QuickBooks and Xero already automate large parts of it, and newer AI tools are pushing further into the parts that used to require an actual accountant sitting down with a spreadsheet. Paralegals are on this list too, which tends to catch people off guard, because law feels like a profession built entirely on human expertise. But a huge portion of paralegal work is document review, searching through thousands of pages for specific clauses or precedents. AI tools built for legal research can now do that search in minutes instead of days. The lawyers still argue the cases, but the quiet, unglamorous research work underneath them is being absorbed by machines that never miss a document out of exhaustion. Translators and interpreters make the list next, and this is one of the harder ones to sit with, because translation used to be considered one of the safest creative careers there was. Then, AI translation tools got good enough to handle real-time conversation, decent enough for business documents, and free. Human translators still exist, for literature, for nuance, for anything where a wrong word could cause real damage. But the everyday translation work, emails, manuals, customer support, has largely moved to software. Journalists writing basic news reports are on this list as well, specifically the kind of writing that follows a formula. Earnings reports, sports recaps, weather updates. The Associated Press has used AI to write thousands of these stories for years already, quietly, without most readers ever noticing the byline wasn't a person. Investigative journalism, interviews, on-the-ground reporting, none of that is going anywhere soon. But the fast, formulaic writing that used to be someone's first job in the industry is disappearing. Stock and financial analysts doing routine research fall into this category too. AI systems can now scan earnings calls, financial filings, and market data faster than any human team, spotting patterns that would take analysts weeks to notice. The senior analysts who make final judgment calls aren't going anywhere. The junior researchers doing the groundwork underneath them are being replaced by systems that never need coffee breaks. Truck driving deserves its own mention, because it employs more people in some countries than almost any other single profession. Autonomous trucking companies have already run driverless freight routes across parts of the United States. It hasn't taken over the industry yet, and probably won't fully by 2030. But long-haul routes, the highway stretches, are exactly where the technology is closest to ready. Local delivery, tricky city driving, that part stays human much longer. Warehouse and fulfillment workers are already watching this shift happen in real time. Amazon operates warehouses with hundreds of thousands of robots working alongside human employees, and the ratio keeps tilting further toward automation every year. The robots don't replace every worker. They replace the ones doing repetitive lifting, sorting, and moving, work that used to require dozens of people and now requires a handful watching screens. Receptionists and administrative assistants make the list too, because most of what they do, scheduling, answering routine questions, managing calendars, is something AI assistants now handle without needing an office at all. Radiology technicians handling routine scan analysis are on here as well, which unsettles people, because medicine feels untouchable. AI systems trained on millions of medical images can now detect certain cancers and abnormalities as accurately as trained radiologists, sometimes catching things human eyes miss entirely. Doctors still make the final call, but the first read, the initial scan, is increasingly done by software before a human ever looks at it. Graphic designers doing basic commercial work round out the list, the templated social media graphics, simple logo variations, basic ad creative. Tools like Midjourney and Canva's AI features can now produce in seconds what used to take a junior designer half a day. And travel agents close it out, a profession that's been shrinking for 20 years already, as booking sites and AI trip planners took over the simple parts of the job, leaving only the complex, high-value bookings for actual human agents to handle. None of this means every person in these jobs loses their income by 2030. It means the number of people needed to do the same amount of work keeps shrinking, year after year, quietly, without a single dramatic headline attached to it. Carol Sutton eventually found work again, training the very AI system that replaced her, teaching it how to sound calm when a customer was angry. She said it felt strange, watching something learn her own instincts, faster than she ever could have taught a new hire. She wasn't angry about it anymore, just tired, in the way people get when the ground keeps shifting under something they built their whole life on. The jobs on this list aren't disappearing because the people doing them weren't good enough. They're disappearing because the tasks inside those jobs turned out to be more repeatable than anyone expected. And the real question isn't whether your job is on this list. It's whether the parts of your job that make you valuable are the parts a machine can copy, or the parts that still need a person standing there, thinking, deciding, noticing something a system was never built to see.